Captain's Log, July 5th, 2025. Hello, I'm Captain Bile. Good on you, you've made it to Friday. I forgot to say that last time. My apologies. My father used to have a radio station. I believe it was a radio station. It escaped me at the moment. But the point is, it was a weekend radio station, and the host, every time, he said, "Welcome to the weekend," at the beginning of the show. And he once said that's how he knew the week was over and he could decompress. I was like, ah. And I have a few things similar to that. And egotistical it may be, I believe there is at least one person, one violin out there who is a regular listener to Captain's Log, who gets some little, now I can relax sign from the good on you, you've made it to Friday. I do at each Captain's Log. So that's why I always try and make sure I've got it. And I realized I didn't have it while editing. It's like, oh, So I've made doubly sure that I said it this time. Anywho, with that out of the way, how was my week? It was all right. Thankfully, not as busy as last time. Funny enough, though, were this not an audio-only show, you would see egg on my face. I didn't write anything down. Nothing was prepared. We'll have another rambling show, as it were. But at least it won't be as scattered as last time. I'm gonna drink something in my throat. Have I talked about that thing people do when they drink water? That is, I only know about it from sitcoms and whatnot. Characters, particularly Curb Your Enthusiasm during the Social Assassin episode, where Susie took a sip of water and went, each time. I've never known anyone who does that. I don't know how it originated. There was clearly someone who did it, because it's a trope in TV shows. I've never done that, and I tried doing it, because it is a conscious... you gotta move your lips, you gotta push the air out of your mouth. And it's, I don't know, Susie's explanation in the episode, if you've not seen it, was to show to others that she enjoyed the beverage. It's just peculiar. But it was like, only water. Like, I wouldn't have a glass of milk and go, just an annoying sound. It is annoying, but like, is it that annoying? I suppose it would only be annoying for, like, meals. But, like, I guess it can get annoying. If it's, like, every single... I can understand. Hot day. That's that, like, first ice-cold sip. That would warrant, like, a noise of enjoyment, as it were. But if you're just at like, brunch, and, like, your I don't know, like, ice, or cola with ice, every sip. Now I can see what it's annoying. Oh well. Last episode, a lot of callbacks, it seems. My apologies. Oh well. Last episode I mentioned a thought I had about Patreon, or advertising my Patreon, which is still not up, by the way. I'm working on the trailer. I told you! It's gotta have all the bells and whistles. Never let it be said Captain Bile didn't try and be entertaining. Anywho, I'm not done with the trailer, so it's not up. But I also still have to, like, the main selling point is concept art and storyboards. But the concept art and storyboards, I have them saved as, like, drawing files. So I have to go through each one individually and save them as PNGs or JPEGs so I can actually upload them to the site. But anywho, I mentioned if it would be too obtrusive, I thought it would be too obtrusive to have in the end card of each video going forward to have like a link to my Patreon, because I know you can do that. And when I tried it out, I went to a recent video and like went to add a link just to like observe how much of the screen it would take place. I could not do so. I am not yet a YouTube partner, so I cannot add links to my end card. So you needn't worry about an obtrusive end card, everyone. Obtrusive? How many alliterations can I get out of that? No, I can't do in Joyce. Hey, this is my show. This is the alliteration hour. It will entice you to know, everyone, that we will no longer be enduring the obtrusive end card. And it's not really fully, because it's obtrusive. Enduring an end card, yeah. It's just kind of similarity in how I pronounce O's and E's in certain words. So never mind. Alliteration hour is cancelled. Now, last episode, I also failed to mention the movie of the week. Well, I didn't fail to mention it. The site I use to watch movies has been taken down. And this is another talking point, actually, that I'll get to in a second. I believe I was texted by my father during the show about what movie we were watching. And it was not District 9. That's a movie about aliens. No, it was the 9th Configuration. Yes. Allow me to pull up my Letterboxd review of that, as I have a habit of reading those. Let's see here. Yes, it is. 9th Configuration. I gave it 3 stars and said, quote, "A very intriguing film. It's well acted, with the fictions of madness being mere comical, but only when intended to be. I struggle to describe this film in the way it deserves, but I did enjoy it. It's an odd movie. What a well-made movie. Written by the same writer who wrote The Exorcist, and directed by the writer who wrote Exorcist. He couldn't get the guy who directed Exorcist, so he was like, I'll do it myself. He did a really, really good job. Oh well. So, this week's movie would have been, that was last week's movie, would have been The Cars That Ate Paris, an Australian horror movie about people purposely causing car accidents to profit. Like, everyone in that city is a murderer, is an intriguing idea. But I couldn't watch it, so it'll be next week. That's an, annoying thing. It's probably going to be going on for a while. I will not cut my Letterboxd review readings, however. I enjoy that part of the show. It's just like the reading the... It's the routine I enjoy. I watch a movie, and now I've given my thoughts on it in a small manner. I like that. Not too obtrusive. It's not a movie review show. It's just my week. And this week I watched a movie. I also read a book. Whilst scouring... I'm just gonna Reddit. Frankly, I go on like r/piracy. I'm trying to find a new site to watch movies on. I don't use Reddit, but I know. This is how I found this site. I found a place you can pirate books. Books. Novels. And I read a novel. I read. Yes, yeah, vocabulary and all that. But, hey. I don't know, maybe you just think Captain likes reading dictionaries. No, alright, I do read. But it's often I reread. I do not often read new books. I try to read new books, but I often reread old books I read as a kid. That being Ark of a Scythe. Which I should. There's been a new addition to Ark of a Scythe. In air quotes, because the story ended. This is like a kind of a... I wouldn't consider it a prequel. Well, I don't know. I've not read it, but there's a 4th edition to the trilogy that ended in Gleanings that I'll read. But what I did read was a horror novel. It's not the right word? I suppose so. It's very interestingly written, and by that I mean written out on the page. It's from the perspective of a child, and it's written as such. There are very rarely paragraphs. It's all 2 sentences and then, like, a divider. Or as if you were to hit enter on your keyboard twice, like a bear. Very, very... There's lots of just small collections of sentences, like a child's writing things down. It's obviously in, like, normal text, but just how it's displayed is interesting. But it's about a child being haunted, and from her perspective. It's very interesting. It's a really good book, though. Like, I had forgotten what it was like to be engrossed in a good book. That sounds insulting to the castle, which I'm reading now. As a physical book, I read this on, like, my screen, because it's on my computer. I just downloaded it and read it as JPEGs. And I do enjoy Kafka and his work. I particularly enjoy his short stories, though. His novels, I mean, I can't really give a fair case for his novels. I've only read The Castle. And even then, I'm only, I'd say, 2/3 of the way through it. I've enjoyed it, but I don't know. This is new. I'm familiar with this. This is something new. I should read the rest of his things. But I mean, I suppose another, like, bit of novels. I read often. I read short stories. It's not often that I'm saying, I'm going to use different words than often. I do not read novels a lot. I enjoy short stories because typically, I suppose this is just my perspective, but I imagine that they're more interesting than novels. And that is to say, you can do a lot more in a short story than you do a novel, because a novel, it needs to be fleshed out. A short story is like, wouldn't it be crazy if this happened? That's why I prefer writing short stories. I do, on occasion. I've had several that I've started, none that I finished. Well, that's not true, I've got one. But it's not very good. And really is just like a wouldn't it be crazy if this happened? It's some guy meets the god of knowledge and is told that he left the carriage door open. And that's it. That's the extent of, like, you told me you were going to teach me the secret of happiness. No, I said I could tell you. I did tell you left the garage door open. That's like the joke. The raccoons got in again, and now they're eating garbage. Much more just absurdist than horror. But I do enjoy, like, horror. But I say it's more interesting because you don't have to flesh them out that much. You can, and I believe you should to a degree. But you don't need a setting. You can just be, oh, it's in, like, Florida. Or, I suppose when I say novel, Lord of the Rings. You don't need world building. You need a good hook and a good execution and some solid characters. Not great characters, but solid characters. You can, like, it always helps, but it's not necessary. It's mainly just got to be interesting. And of course, I often read. How much of what I intake and output is horror, I'm realizing. Hang on, I can check my channel right now. My short films that I've made, how many of those are horror? I think most of them are just, like, nonsense comedy. Okay, hang on. Insane Man Plays Chess Against Himself. That's not a genre of anything. That's just me recording myself playing chess that I called a mini-movie for some reason. My Opponent is Insane. That's comedy. Desperate Snowman. That's comedy with horrific implications, but it doesn't really... Well, it does touch on them. Who Even Is This Man? That... I haven't read that yet. That was the start of, like, a meta horror short series I was going to do, where a guy in a short film realizes that he's in a short film over the course of several short films, and then his existence ends. As soon as he realizes it, and just stop. He doesn't get to exist anymore. Was what I was going for, but I didn't like the idea, so I dropped it and I left the first one up. I didn't make any others, but I had plans for it. Anyway, comedy, and that's a comedy with a same thing as the Snowman. Comedy with horrific implications. I've got a deal you can't refuse. Horror, I'd say horror. It's not that scary. Thriller, thriller's a good one. Thriller, comedy. Fake estate agent, same thing. Thriller, comedy. Free for a Reason, I did as a student project. That's for university. A guy gets attacked by a magic box of clothes. I don't know. It's mainly a comedy, especially with the sound effects. There's like boing, like I used Hanna-Barbera cartoon sound effects as he gets like pulled into blocks. So yeah, no, there is definitely, you may notice a theme of comedic with horrific implications, or horror with a side of comedy. And then in the short stories I read, alright, they are creepypastas. They're creepypastas. But is that not a short story? What's so wrong with, like, is a petal plucked from a rose still not smell the same as the rose? If you call a rose by any other name, or whatever, yeah, great alteration to a 12 count. Anyway, is it not legitimate reading? I'd argue that it is. But anyway, a lot of horror I use. A lot that I've written. Have I explained during the Q&A? I did explain some short stories. We're on the subject of them. I've got stuff pulled up. Why not go check the let's see, Captain Volumes 2. No, writing. On that wall, creepypasta about a bird, Dr. Stickson will see you now. Figurative language to use. Formula T, Living Ocean, One-Way Window. One-Way Window was horror. I should have gone here first. Okay. Formula T is mainly a comedy with horrific implications, but it's not really implied. We see them, so it's... What is it, black comedy? Where it's like really, really dark but funny? I don't know. I don't know the terms. Dark comedy, horror, nonsense. It's more thriller. Formula T, I am close to finishing, so that's why I'm being very close to the chest when it's about. Because I can finish this pretty recently. I should start it up on it again. I'll do some tweaking. Anyway, Living Ocean is a world where specifically the ocean becomes alive and is trying to kill people. Great idea, I know. Ooh. And I had various, and like, the questions you have, how does that work? Like, the ocean. And it's like, it's from the perspective of a guy stationed on, like, a wall built to protect from the ocean attacking. And I don't know if this is a good idea, but it's like, it's metal plates that heat up, built on the wall, so that if the ocean tries to slam into them, it evaporates. I don't think that would work at all, but, like, the ocean's alive. Logic is not really part of the equation here. But it's like, if you throw, like, a cup of water that you got from a lake and throw it into the ocean that is alive, it will then become alive. It'll just grow. It just grows. Like, any lake or river that is shut off from the ocean is not alive. But if you, like, dig, and it can now have a contact with ocean water, it's alive. If you take some water, like, if you take the evaporated steam from the wall produces, and, like, cool it down, have it be water, it's just water. It's separate. Like, rain that goes into the ocean becomes part of the ocean, or not. I had another, like, if someone drinks the water, animals that fall into the ocean or have become come into contact with living water such as a river that goes in the ocean, have all the water in their bodies drained and added to that body of water. That's what it had come up with then. Also, main character knows this from watching happen. All saltwater fish are extinct. With limited fresh water are kept alive in private indoor farms. I'm just reading my notes. I haven't actually written the thing. I'm just reading, like, the ideas in my head. Arctic poles are surrounded by giant ice-spiked walls from when the ocean tried to attack but froze in the process. It's got, like, a brother and, like, a outpost there. One-way window is basically, House of Leaves, but I've never read House of Leaves. I just know it's about a guy whose house gradually changes and he goes insane. And that's what happens to these two. Two guys move into a house that has a one-way window. Like, there's a window in the living room they can see out of, but if you're outside of the house looking at the spot in the wall where that window is, there's no window. And they find out one of their neighbors is cheating on the other, and one of the characters says, "Ooh, scandalous." There's a joke. But that's how they find out. One of them is a mother, the other one is, and becomes obsessed with trying to figure out how to stop the house from changing, and the other one embraces it. It's like, ooh, we can have a separate bathroom. Like, ooh, we can have a theater. But he, like, I don't know. I don't know if I want to read that. I don't know if I want to give his fate away. Or the other guy who tries to stop the house from changing his fate away. Now I'll keep that also close to my vest. You'll have to wait. I'll advertise these when they're done. I did that with the novelization. Oh, there's also the making of the flag of the nation of Fonenberg. This is absurdist comedy. There's no horror in this. This is just absurdist comedy. Some guy clones himself, and then keeps cloning himself, and then makes a floating country. He, like, gets scrap metal and, like, barrels, ties them together, and just does that ad nauseum. Until it's big enough to be considered, like, a small island of just him. And then it's, like, one other guy who the other country is sent to, like, log what they're doing, make sure they're not making bombs or something, which they wouldn't be able to do, because they just have, like, scrap metal in the ocean, they survive off the fish. And it's just them making their... Well, I guess he was smart enough to get cloned, so all the clones are smart as him. But anyway, it's just them making a flag. And the flag itself... Do I want to give the ending away? It's got something to do with a submarine, but not the environment you expect it to be. Is what I'll... Well, in a manner of speaking, I suppose it's in the exact environment. And I'll leave it at that. I'll give you that little nugget to forget about in 2 weeks. And then when I advertise that I've finished it and it's up and you can go read it, I'll be like, oh yeah, that. And then you read it and like, what the hell is this? I waited 2 years for this? Anyway. See if I can write anything down for next episode, because I forgot to for this one. But anyway. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.